All right, we are going to chat today about tips for reading with your child. We know that it's super important to be reading with your child, but these things that I'm going to be talking to you about, these different skills and strategies, can help you make the most of that reading time. So, point number one is point to the words while you are reading. I'll show what that looks like. That looks like this. The forest is on fire. I'd better roll fast. Just like that, just reading and pointing right along. I don't know if you can tell because it's kind of backwards, but that's what pointing with the words looks like. And the reasons that you should do this is it teaches your child that print has meaning. That means it teaches them these words mean something. These letters make words. It teaches that in English we read from left to right and top to bottom. If you were to be reading in another language, it would be teaching however that language reads. And it will help your child begin to recognize sight words, common words, or words that show like an action or a sound. For example, I'll show you in this book. They can begin to recognize that things like this, these like woo, woo, honk, honk, that when the words are like that, they mean a sound or an action, or like the ring, ring. So when you're pointing to the words, that helps solidify that in your child's mind. The next thing is to point to the pictures as you read about them. And so that would look like this. Be like, it's time for bath. He heads to the pit. His wipers are on. He sweeps off the grit. Kind of just showing that this car is just driving along here, and you'd be like, here, look, this is the tickle and wash. And sorry, there's a bug that's just flying around me. I don't know if you can see that. Pointing to the pictures shows that illustrations have meaning. You can see that this is about a car. And it also teaches that print and illustrations work together to make a story. For example, back to this page, you can see the words are saying what he's doing, but you can also see, like, for example, his headlights are on. So that would show that it's night. Shows that he's like driving through like the trees. Earlier in the book, you could see, I don't know where that is. Earlier in the book, you could see him driving away from the city. So it says he's headed home, so you know he doesn't live in the city. So pointing at the illustrations can teach that the illustrations and print works together to tell a story. It increases their vocabulary as they're able to connect novel words with their meaning. And a novel word is just a word that they don't know. So really any word could be. So we're going to use this book for another example. Maybe a novel word for them is a racetrack. You can use this picture of a racetrack to talk about, oh, a racetrack is, oh, it looks like maybe they're black. Maybe it's made out of asphalt. The cars drive on it really fast. You can see that it's going around. Or just whatever the new words are, you can learn about it by pointing it out in the pictures. And then using the illustrations as you read can make abstract ideas more concrete. For example, in this book, it has an illustration of this car going to sleep and having a dream. A dream is kind of an abstract idea, but using these pictures, you can be like, oh, a dream is when he's asleep and he's thinking of something or he's imagining something. So pictures can make those abstract ideas much more concrete for your child, which is something that they are working on. The next thing is to point out specific aspects of the print and of the pictures. And this one depends on the child's age, because older kids, you could point out like the commas, and you say, look, this book is called Work Dogs Work. And these commas teach us where to pause. Work, pause, dogs, pause, work. Or you talk about how it says a highway tale. And so you could be like, well, this is the main title, and then we say that after. For younger children, you can point out things that are more like, oh, look, this dog is digging a hole with a shovel. These are construction cones. These dogs are working in the mountains. We can tell because of all these trees, different things like that. And pointing out the specific little aspects, the little details can help with letter and word recognition. Point out if your kid's name starts with a D, be like, look, there's your letter, a D. It can help learn sentence structure, like we were talking about with like commas. It will help with beginning grammar. It will help learn colors. That's a perfect thing for little kids. Oh, look, it's a yellow tractor, an orange jacket, a gray dog. Also numbers and counting. Like, how many dogs do you see on this page? How many tractors? Let's count the lines, whatever you are working on and whatever your child's level is at. Then also pointing out the specific aspects helps with novel objects and activities. So this one's a perfect one because construction isn't something that most kids are really working with on the daily. So this page talks about a road being built, which is something that kids don't necessarily see every day. And so you can talk about, oh, this dump truck is unloading the asphalt. And this picture and pointing out like, oh, see the black stuff? That's asphalt and it's going into this yellow truck. Can help them kind of get that new idea concrete into their mind. And it also teaches about environmental print, which is super important. I'll point out this book has a lot of it. Environmental print is things on signs, like this one says dogs at work or slow. It's things on buildings, on vehicles. For example, this says like this is the company Dig Dogs. And so you point out that environmental print as you are reading through to help your child learn that there is print all around us and it helps us understand our world. The next thing you can do is ask questions. So these are kind of some different types of questions you can ask, but you can really ask any kind of question. It could be open-ended or closed-ended. They both add to the value of asking the questions. So for example, ask about the storyline. What happened next? What happened first? Like what happened first on their journey? Where did they start out? Then you can ask about the characters. How do you know that she was sad? Or how do you think she's feeling now? How did she solve that? You can ask about novel words. What do you think that word means? Or, I wonder what, insert whatever the novel word is, means. Or like, why do you think they need such a big crane to make a skyscraper? That's talking about something that is likely a novel activity for your child that they probably don't know about. Ask about places. I wonder if there are any parks by us that have slides. Do you think this place is real or make-believe? Ask about illustrations. I wonder why she picked a bright yellow rain jacket. She usually wears gray. What do you notice in this picture that might give us a clue of what's going to happen next? And ask about the print. I notice this word gets all squiggly. I wonder why. They lots of times like the word zoom is like across the page and be like, or maybe it'll be like the word like down or slide. You know what I'm talking about, where there's words that are kind of animated, talking about that type of print. So this book, I really love this book. It's called Old Rock is Not Boring. And this one offers a lot of opportunities to ask questions. And I'm just going to point out a couple of things. I really encourage you to go read it. But here's some questions that you might find. So in this book, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. In this book, there's this rock that's been sitting here forever, and he has a tree, a beetle, and a hummingbird as friends. And they're like Old Rock, you have such a boring life. Like, you just sit here and we get to do all these awesome things. Don't you wish you could do something like us? And so the hummingbird's like, well, I get to fly around. Don't you wish you could fly? He's like, well, I did fly. And he tells this story. And then the beetle's like, don't you wish you could see things? And he's like, well, these are the things I've seen. And Tall Pine's like, don't you wish you could move? And he's like, these are the times that I've moved. So after the hummingbird asks him if he has ever flown, he says, I have. And he tells about a time in the beginning when everything was dark. This is the page. So at this time, it would be an awesome time to ask, like, I wonder why it was dark. What is the beginning? Where do you think he is? What happened to Old Rock? What do you think will happen? What do you think is going to happen that will make him fly? And then he gets burst out of a volcano, and he'd be like, ask, oh, what? Where is Old Rock? Which one of these rocks looks like Old Rock? It showed him at the beginning. Maybe then it. So here's Beetle. Beetle saying, like, don't you wish you could see things? And you'd be like, I wonder what things Old Rock has seen. I wonder where he's been. And he kind of tells about it. And you can ask about these. Or I wonder what these bubbles mean. What do you think that dinosaur is trying to ask? Does he look happy? Does he look sad? Why do you think he's covered in snow? Then you go on an adventure. You can say, what do you think he saw in this glacier? I notice a dinosaur bone. You can talk about, say, how has he changed? Go back and look at the other pictures. His eyebrows actually turn white as he gets older. You'd be like, how has Old Rock changed? Does Old Rock look happy? What do you think his friends are feeling? And at the end, it's kind of just like, everyone's like, you do have a happy life. You really enjoy sitting here in this grove. You're like, how do you think he feels? What do you think he'll do next? What do you think his friends will do next? Just asking any question you can think of about any of the things in the book, and any questions about the pictures, the storyline, characters, anything to get your child thinking about the book. And going right along with that is making predictions. This is a skill that is super powerful. And children are learning. It's a very important skill. And my favorite question for this is, or what do you think will happen next? But there's lots of other ways. And if you need to kind of prompt it more, that's totally fine. For example, I remember he said the first step was to jump over the fence. Can you remember what the next step is? What do you think they'll do next? Why do you think he said that? How do you think she's feeling? Making these predictions can help children think about storylines, about plots, about other people's feelings. For example, another book that I really, really love is Mike Mulligan and his steam shovel. And in it, he has a steam shovel and they dig super fast, but then all the other kinds of steam shovels like diesel and gas and all the other kinds of steam shovels come out and there's no work for them. And so then they see an ad for a job in the small town called Popperville. And you could be like, well, what do you think will happen now? And then maybe they'll say, this is a great time for back and forth. Maybe your child will be like, I think they're going to go to Popperville. Be like, what do you think will happen in Popperville? He's going to try and get the job. Do you think he'll get it? Yes. And do you think he'll finish his job? Yes. Do you think he'll get more jobs after that? Just keep pulling on that. You can come up with a whole story ending prediction and then find out what happens. And you can do that at multiple different spots. So you can be like, what do you think will happen? Do you think he'll apply for that job? And they'll be like, no, I don't think so. I think that he will do X, Y, Z. And then you read it, the next page. And he did apply for that job. And then you're like, what'll happen now? Do you think he'll get it? Do you think he'll do that? And you can just keep making new endings and thinking about different storylines. The next thing is to talk about the cover and make predictions based off that. And I know they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but this is a really powerful tool to get your child thinking about representation with print and illustrations. So let's look at this. Just look at it and be like, what do you think this book is about? Any answer is fine. This is especially great if you don't know what the book is about, because you can't be like, yeah, that's not what that's about. Just look at it and just be like, I notice a moon. What do you think that bear is doing? It's called moon dance. I wonder what that might mean. And just predict about it, and then read through it. And then at the end, be like, okay, you predicted X was going to happen. Did that happen? What was the same? What was different? And that's very powerful for helping children learn about print and illustrations. The next point is to be creative with your voice, and try using a different voice for different characters, use inflection, use sound effects, focus on different parts of the sentence. I love when you have different characters have different voices, and even if it's not consistent, even if it kind of feels silly, your kids will love it. If you're like, hi, my name is, and whatever, and you have different ones, do the sound effects when they have like the ding ding, like if something's happening, be like ding 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 ding, and try and make the dinging with your sound, with your voice rather than just reading it. That will make it exciting and entertaining and keep your child engaged, especially if your child's having a hard time loving books, rather than just reading through and just being like, I don't know, pray, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. I mean, like, and then this happened, and this happened. And especially if you're rereading the book, it can be really fun. And actually, I think it's fun for a mom also, is reading the book differently, because depending on which word you emphasize, it can mean something totally different. So maybe the first time you go through and read it, and then the next time you read it, focusing on different words, and you can be a totally different story. Okay, my next point is to read it again. It can get long when your kid has a favorite book and they're like, again, you're like, I've read this 8,000 times today. Keep reading. Children learn through repetition. If your child is wanting to read a book again and again, that's awesome that they're wanting to read. Do it. I mean, if to a certain point, if it's getting so crazy, you don't have to, but don't worry about it. If they've already read it, they're going to learn something new. They're going to get something new out of it every single time. So don't worry about reading it again and again. Okay, my next point is explain what novel words are. So a novel word, again, is something that your child doesn't know yet. And it can be so simple. Sometimes we don't even think about it. We totally take it for granted, what they might know or not know. And so if there's a word that they either ask about, or you kind of think about if they've ever experienced something like it, pause and give a definition that they're able to understand. For example, this book, Out on the Prairie, is a cute one. But if you haven't spent a lot of time, maybe you don't know, it has a whole bunch of different kinds of animals and different things in it. For example, this one is about the grasshoppers. And it says, out on the prairie where the grandma grasses thrive, lived a mother grasshopper and her little nymphs 5. And a nymph, like, what is that? Your child probably doesn't know. So stop and be like, I wonder what a nymph is. There's 5 of them. Here's a mother grasshopper, and they might be able to help figure it out, because the pattern of the book is a mom animal and her babies. But then you just be like, a nymph is a baby grasshopper. And that's totally at their level. They can understand that. You can keep reading, and then they'll understand what's happening in the book, have more vocabulary in their brain that they know that they can pull on and that they can understand the world with. And then my last tip is make it fun. Reading should be fun. Use your voice to make it fun. Use the situation to make it fun. Here's a couple of tips that I would say if you're not really sure where to start. Take turns choosing the book. Like, hey, you choose a book. Now I choose a book. Now you choose a book. Read interesting books. What does your child love? Read about that. Does your child love llamas? Read about llamas. Does your child love school buses? Find every book about a school bus and read what they love. Read a variety of books. Find books that maybe are picture books, ones that maybe have like a lot of words, ones that have a lot of pictures, ones that are long or short or are different sizes, have different types of illustrations, just totally the variety. So they never exactly know what to expect, and it's fun and exciting. Read somewhere new. Don't always be in the same spot. Try reading on the couch, read in bed, read at the kitchen table, read under a tree, read with a drink of water, read on a picnic blanket in your yard. Just somewhere else. Just totally, you could read the same book, same everything. You read it somewhere else, and it's super exciting. And then don't stress about being perfect. You should be enjoying it. Um, these are a lot of tips, a lot to bring in. You probably feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose. That's okay. You don't have to do it all. You just get out and read and have fun. And when you're feeling confident and you want to take it to the next level, add just one of these things. You do not have to add everything. Maybe all you do is ask questions. Maybe the next time, all you do is take it outside on a picnic blanket and read. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by this, but these are a lot of tools for you so that you can keep trying things to make reading enjoyable for both you and your child. So thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to hear more tips, follow along on Instagram at Matrinity. And you can also find us obviously here on YouTube, and you can subscribe and follow along for more tips, or you can go to our website, matrinity.com. Thank you.